In a world where classical music struggles to find its place, one man stands at the crossroads of tradition and innovation. Dr. Marcus Reynolds, a celebrated black conductor with 100 performances to his name, faces his greatest challenge when the very institution he built turns against him. After a triumphant performance, Marcus discovers a shocking betrayal. The board chairman has orchestrated his removal, claiming his traditional programming threatens the orchestra's future. But sometimes, injustice creates opportunity. As Marcus uncovers corruption and nepotism within the symphony leadership, he builds something revolutionary. A community orchestra that breaks down barriers between professionals and amateurs, between classical tradition and modern accessibility. As the investigation intensifies and powerful figures begin to fall, Marcus faces a critical decision. Should he reclaim his position or continue building something entirely new? Witness the story of a musical visionary who refuses to let politics silence his passion. A man who proves that true music belongs to everyone. The Conductor's Redemption, a tale of dignity over revenge, justice over retaliation, and the transformative power of collaborative creation. Have you ever witnessed someone turn unfair treatment into something beautiful? Share your story in the comments and join our community of music lovers who believe in second acts. Dr. Marcus Reynolds adjusted his bow tie in the small mirror of his dressing room. Tonight marked his 100th performance as principal conductor of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra. The polished baton, a gift from his late mentor, lay waiting on the vanity. At 60 years old, Marcus had earned every accolade and overcome every obstacle in his distinguished career. A soft knock interrupted his preparation. "Come in," Marcus called, his deep voice resonating in the small space. Sarah, his wife of 35 years and a retired music teacher, entered with a warm smile. She wore an elegant navy dress that complemented her silver-streaked hair. "How are you feeling?" she asked, straightening his already perfect tie. "Like I did before my very first concert," Marcus admitted. "Some things never change." Sarah kissed his cheek. "You've conducted Beethoven's Ninth a dozen times. Tonight will be magnificent." Marcus nodded but couldn't shake the unease that had been building over the past few months. The appointment of Walter Prescott as board chairman had brought subtle but troubling changes. The programming committee now questioned his artistic choices, marketing had shifted focus, and several longtime patrons had expressed confusion about the orchestra's new direction. Walter requested another meeting tomorrow, Marcus said, to discuss audience engagement strategies. Sarah frowned. "On the morning after your 100th performance, apparently ticket sales trump celebration." Marcus checked his watch. "I should go." The hallway leading to the stage hummed with pre-performance energy. Orchestra members nodded respectfully as he passed. Marcus had built this ensemble methodically over 15 years, blending veteran musicians with promising talents from diverse backgrounds. As he approached the stage entrance, he noticed Walter Prescott speaking with two other board members. Walter, tall in his 50s with perfectly styled silver hair, represented old money and older traditions. He'd inherited his position at the investment firm his grandfather had founded. Marcus slowed his pace, not intending to eavesdrop, but Walter's voice carried. "Need fresh blood, modern direction. The donor base is evolving. They want innovation, not the same tired classics." Marcus felt his jaw tighten but continued walking. Tonight belonged to the music, not politics. The performance hall had sold out weeks ago. Nearly 2,000 people filled the seats, their collective anticipation creating an electric atmosphere. Marcus strode onto the stage to enthusiastic applause. The orchestra stood in respect. For the next 90 minutes, Marcus led them through Beethoven's masterpiece with precision and passion. The chorus delivered the ode to joy with transcendent power. When the final note resonated through the hall, a moment of reverent silence fell before the audience erupted into a standing ovation. Marcus acknowledged the soloists, chorus, and orchestra before taking his own bow. Roses landed on stage. The applause continued for 5 minutes, the audience refusing to let the moment end. At the reception afterward, musicians and patrons crowded around Marcus with congratulations. A reporter from the local paper asked for a statement. "Music connects us across every boundary," Marcus said. "For 100 nights, I've had the privilege of creating that connection with the Hartford community. I'm grateful to everyone who's been part of this journey." Walter Prescott approached with a glass of champagne and a camera-ready smile. "Quite a milestone, Marcus. Congratulations." "Thank you, Walter. The full house tonight suggests our programming still resonates." Walter's smile remained fixed. "Yes, our loyal subscribers appreciate tradition, but we must evolve to attract younger audiences. Speaking of which, have you met Cameron Wright? He's conducting the Seattle Symphony's innovative crossover series." A younger man appeared at Walter's side, extending his hand. "Dr. Reynolds, it's an honor. Your recording of Mahler's Fifth was my introduction to classical music." "Kind of you to say," Marcus replied, noting how intently Walter watched their interaction. The reception continued around them, but Marcus felt increasingly isolated. Board members clustered in small groups, occasionally glancing his way. The musicians sensed the tension, their celebrations becoming more subdued. Later, as the hall emptied, Marcus returned to his dressing room to find a message from his daughter Sophia. Couldn't call before your performance. Med school exams are brutal. So proud of you, Dad. 100 performances. Love you. The text brightened his mood. Sophia had inherited his passion and her mother's patience, a powerful combination for a future surgeon. As Marcus gathered his belongings, he heard voices in the hallway. Tomorrow's meeting will be difficult. It was Alyssa Chen, the youngest board member and one of his few allies. Necessary, though, Walter replied. The numbers don't lie. We need significant changes to survive. But immediately after his 100th, the timing feels deliberate, Walter. Business doesn't wait for sentiment, Alyssa. Marcus has had a good run, but the orchestra needs direction that connects with modern audiences. Marcus stood frozen, their footsteps fading down the corridor. The implication was clear. When he finally emerged, the building had emptied except for the cleaning staff. The stage door security guard, James, offered congratulations as Marcus signed out. Beautiful performance, Dr. Reynolds. My wife was in tears during the finale. Thank you, James. Music should move us. 100 more performances to come, right? Marcus smiled but didn't answer. The drive home was silent. Sarah noticed his mood immediately when he entered their modest colonial home. What happened? She asked, taking his coat. Marcus loosened his tie. I believe tomorrow's meeting isn't about engagement strategies. It's about my future or lack thereof with the orchestra. They wouldn't dare, not after tonight. Walter's been positioning for months. New marketing firm, programming disputes, budget reviews. I've conducted orchestras for 30 years, Sarah. I recognize the overture to dismissal. Sarah took his hands. Then we prepare, you faced worse. Marcus nodded, thinking of the obstacles he'd overcome throughout his career. The professors who'd questioned his place in conducting programs. The reviewers who'd focused more on his race than his technique. The boards who'd worried he wouldn't connect with traditional audiences. I'll call Thomas in the morning, he said, referring to his attorney friend. If they want to fight, I won't make it easy. Sarah squeezed his hands. Whatever happens, your music touched thousands tonight. That's what matters. Marcus managed a smile, but as he prepared for bed, his mind was already calculating moves and countermoves. Tomorrow would bring battle, but tonight had been about beauty. He would try to hold on to that for a few hours more. The morning after his celebrated performance, Marcus awoke at his usual time of 5:30 a.m. Decades of conducting had instilled discipline that persisted beyond the podium. He prepared a pot of coffee while checking his calendar. The urgent meeting with Walter was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the orchestra's administrative offices. Marcus called Thomas Wilson, his attorney friend of 20 years who had helped numerous artists navigate institutional politics. They've scheduled it when most of the orchestra will be absent, Marcus explained. That's deliberate. Document everything, Thomas advised. Record the meeting if Connecticut law permits. I can be there in an advisory capacity if you'd like. No, Marcus decided. If I bring counsel, they'll delay and regroup. I need to see their hand. After finishing the call, Marcus found Sarah in their sunroom reviewing music sheets for her volunteer teaching program at the community center. I've been thinking, Sarah said, looking up from her work. Whatever happens today, your contribution to classical music doesn't diminish. Marcus poured himself more coffee. It's not just about me. The direction Walter wants, programming gimmicks, prioritizing spectacle over substance, it diminishes what music can be. Then fight for that, Sarah said simply. Marcus dressed meticulously, charcoal suit, burgundy tie, polished shoes. His father, a Pullman porter who had saved for years to buy Marcus his first violin, had taught him that appearance mattered doubly for a black man in professional spaces. As Marcus drove downtown, his phone rang. The screen displayed Alyssa Chen. Dr. Reynolds, Alyssa began, her voice tense. I probably shouldn't be calling, but I wanted to warn you. The board held a preliminary vote last night after the reception. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. Without proper notice, that violates the bylaws. Walter called it a straw poll to gauge sentiment. He presented financial projections claiming your programming has caused a 30% decline in new subscriptions. Her voice lowered. The numbers seemed manipulated, but most members didn't question them. Thank you for telling me, Alyssa. I've only been on the board 6 months. I never imagined. It's not your fault, Marcus assured her. These institutional maneuvers have a long history. Marcus arrived at the orchestra's offices 15 minutes early. The receptionist, Diane, greeted him warmly. Congratulations on last night, Dr. Reynolds. My husband and I were there, absolutely magnificent. Thank you, Diane. Is anyone else here for the meeting? Most of the board arrived 30 minutes ago. They're in the conference room already. Marcus nodded, absorbing this information. A pre-meeting before the meeting, never a good sign. He was about to head toward the conference room when Jackson Parker, the assistant conductor, approached hastily. Dr. Reynolds, do you have a moment? The young man looked nervous, glancing around the lobby. They stepped aside and Jackson spoke quietly. I was asked to prepare programming proposals emphasizing accessible contemporary works for the next season. When I mentioned you would need to approve any changes, Walter said that wouldn't be necessary. When was this? 2 weeks ago, Jackson admitted, looking ashamed. I should have told you immediately. You're telling me now, Marcus said kindly. That matters. At precisely 10 a.m., Marcus entered the conference room. 9 board members sat around the table with Walter at the head. The atmosphere felt charged with uncomfortable anticipation. Marcus, thank you for joining us, Walter said, not rising from his chair. We have important matters to discuss regarding the orchestra's future. So I understand, Marcus replied, taking the only empty seat directly opposite Walter. I'll get straight to the point, Walter continued. The board has been conducting a comprehensive review of our financial situation, audience demographics, and long-term sustainability. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were charts showing declining ticket sales and aging audience profiles, all attributed to programming choices. These numbers don't match our box office reports, Marcus observed. These incorporate projected trends and comparative analysis with similar orchestras, Walter explained dismissively. The conclusion is unavoidable. We need a dramatic change in artistic direction. Marcus glanced around the table. Most board members avoided eye contact, except Alyssa, who looked distressed, and Robert Fleming, the longest-serving member, who appeared conflicted. With all due respect, Marcus said, last night's sold-out performance suggests our artistic direction resonates with this community. I've proposed innovative programming that balances traditional repertoire with diverse contemporary works. Innovation is precisely what we need, Walter interrupted, which is why the board has voted to terminate your contract effective immediately. The statement hung in the air. Even though Marcus had anticipated this outcome, the bluntness still stunned him. That would violate our agreement, Marcus said evenly. My contract requires formal performance reviews, mediation, and a transition period. Walter pushed another document forward. We're exercising the institutional needs clause. You'll receive 6 months compensation as specified. On what grounds? Marcus asked, maintaining his composure. Financial exigency and artistic redirection, Walter replied. It's all detailed in the termination letter. Robert Fleming cleared his throat. Walter, I believe we agreed to discuss options with Marcus before. The vote was clear, Robert, Walter cut in. 11-3, Marcus did the math quickly. There are only 9 of you here, our board has 15 members. Emergency proxy votes, Walter explained. Now we've arranged for security to escort you to collect personal items from your office and dressing room. Orchestra property, including scores with your markings, must remain. My scores contain decades of personal annotations, Marcus objected. They were created while employed by this orchestra and are therefore institutional property. Alyssa Chen stood suddenly. This is wrong. Dr. Reynolds deserves better than this after 15 years of service. Your objection is noted, Walter said coldly, but the decision stands. 2 security guards entered, not James from last night, but unfamiliar faces from an external company. Marcus stood with dignity. I'll comply, but be aware that I dispute both the process and grounds for this action. My attorney will be in contact. As Marcus was escorted to his office, musicians arriving for afternoon rehearsal watched in shock. Word spread quickly. By the time Marcus had packed his few personal belongings, a small group had gathered in the hallway. Principal violinist Maria Gonzalez approached. What's happening, Marcus? It appears my tenure has ended, he replied quietly. The security guard stood impassively as Marcus said brief goodbyes. He refused to create a scene that would tarnish the institution he had helped build. Outside, local music critic Richard Hammond was waiting. Dr. Reynolds, I've heard rumors of a shakeup. Any comment? Music endures beyond individuals, Marcus replied carefully. The Hartford Symphony has a proud tradition that I believe will continue. As Marcus drove home, his phone buzzed constantly with messages from concerned colleagues and friends. He didn't respond immediately, needing time to process. Sarah was waiting at the door, already informed through the musician's grapevine. It happened, Marcus confirmed simply. Sarah embraced him, then we moved forward. They took my scores, Sarah, 15 years of work. Her expression hardened. That's theft of intellectual property. Marcus set down his box of belongings. Thomas will address that. But first, I need to understand exactly what Walter is planning. This isn't just about replacing me, there's something else happening at that orchestra. Sarah nodded. Then we investigate, and then we respond. Marcus looked at his conductor's baton, the one item he'd insisted on keeping despite the guard's objections. This isn't over, he said quietly. The music doesn't stop just because they've silenced one conductor. Marcus wasted no time initiating his investigation. 2 days after his dismissal, he met Thomas Wilson at the attorney's downtown office. The termination violates at least 6 clauses in your contract, Thomas confirmed, reviewing the documents. We could file for wrongful termination and seek immediate reinstatement. Before we proceed, I need to understand what's really happening, Marcus replied. This feels calculated, Thomas nodded. I've requested the orchestra's financial records through official channels. As former artistic director, you're entitled to verify their claims of financial exigency. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk, information you should see. Jackson. Assistant conductor Jackson Parker met them at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the Symphony Hall. The young man looked over his shoulder repeatedly as he handed Marcus a flash drive. Board meeting minutes, internal emails, and financial reports from the last 6 months, Jackson explained. Walter's been systematically redirecting funds while manufacturing a financial crisis. Marcus examined the files that evening with Sarah and Thomas. The evidence was damning. Walter had hired his brother-in-law's marketing firm at 3 times the previous agency's rate, with minimal deliverables. Equipment purchases were routed through shell companies with markup pricing. Most concerning was a draft announcement of Cameron Wright as the new artistic director, dated 2 months before Marcus's dismissal. These procurement irregularities alone warrant investigation, Thomas noted. The next morning, Marcus received a call from Richard Hammond, the music critic. Something's not adding up, Hammond said. Walter's giving interviews about exciting new directions while refusing to address your departure. Musicians are threatening to speak out. I'd like your perspective. I'm still gathering facts, Marcus replied cautiously. But I appreciate honest reporting on this situation. After the call, Alyssa Chen requested a meeting. They met at the public library, where she provided additional context. Walter's been courting specific board members and donors who want to transform the orchestra into a multimedia entertainment experience, she explained. Classical programming would be reduced by 60% in favor of film scores, video game music, and corporate-sponsored events. That model has a place, but it undermines our educational mission and artistic standards, Marcus noted. There's more, Alyssa continued. Walter's nephew has been promised the position of executive director once the current one retires next month. The nepotism is blatant. As they left the library, Marcus noticed Diane Williams, director of the East Side Community Center, waving from across the street. Dr. Reynolds, I heard what happened. It's shameful, she said. Our community music program misses your guest lectures. A thought crystallized in Marcus's mind. Diane, does your center still have that underused auditorium? With surprisingly good acoustics, she confirmed. Why, I may have an idea, Marcus replied. That evening, Marcus called 5 former orchestra colleagues who had reached out in solidarity. Would you be interested in forming a community orchestra, not as a replacement job, but as a statement about what music can mean to a community? All 5 immediately agreed. Thomas arrived the next morning with more findings. Walter falsified attendance reports to support his narrative. Actual numbers show steady growth during your tenure, particularly among diverse audiences. Can we prove it? Box office records don't lie, Thomas confirmed. And I've found something else. Walter's investment firm manages several board members' portfolios. It's a clear conflict of interest affecting board votes. Marcus spread the documents across his dining room table. We have evidence of financial impropriety, governance violations, and discrimination, but a legal battle could drag on for years. Sarah examined the community center's floor plan. Why not fight on multiple fronts? Challenge them legally while building something new. Marcus's phone rang. Richard Hammond again. I'm hearing rumors about major donors questioning Walter's leadership. Also, several musicians are considering leaving in protest. Tell them to wait, Marcus advised. Change may come sooner than expected. By week's end, Marcus had secured rehearsal space at the community center, contacted 40 musicians interested in his community orchestra concept, and filed a formal complaint with the State Arts Council. The pieces are aligning, he told Sarah. Now we move from defense to counterpoint. Marcus implemented his community orchestra plan with methodical precision. Within 3 weeks of his dismissal, the framework for what he named the Harmony Community Orchestra began to take shape. His home office transformed into an organizational hub. On Monday mornings, he categorized potential musicians into sections. Former professionals, retired or freelance. Advanced community players. University music students. Talented high school students by recommendation. By mid-March, 48 musicians had committed to the project. Marcus established a rotating schedule to accommodate their various obligations, ensuring each rehearsal maintained balanced instrumentation. Sarah coordinated with Diane Williams to optimize the community center's auditorium. They discovered the space possessed unexpectedly favorable acoustics once they 1. Repositioned the stage platforms. 2. Installed basic acoustic panels. 3. Arranged optimal seating configuration for string resonance. Jackson Parker joined as assistant conductor, having resigned from the Hartford Symphony after heated disagreements with Walter about programming changes. Their first concert under Cameron features video game themes with synchronized light displays, Jackson reported during their initial planning meeting. Several principal players are considering leaving. Marcus maintained focus on building, not competing. We're creating something different, a collaborative model that serves the community first. For their inaugural program, Marcus selected works demonstrating both accessibility and artistic integrity. Harmony Community Orchestra debut program. Co-planned Fanfare for the Common Man. Still Symphony No. 1 Afro-American Second Movement. Mozart Symphony No. 40 First Movement. Marquez Danzón No. 2. Traditional, arranged folk melodies, community submission. The first rehearsal drew unexpected attention. Local businesses offered support. A print shop provided free programs, a furniture store loaned proper chairs, and a local tech company donated recording equipment. Maria Gonzalez, formerly principal violinist at Hartford Symphony, arrived with 6 colleagues. Walter's tactics backfired, she explained during break. His nephew was appointed operations director yesterday with 0 experience. The environment is toxic. Marcus maintained strict neutrality in rehearsals, focusing solely on the music. Our purpose isn't opposition but demonstration, showing what's possible when music belongs to everyone. As word spread, additional musicians joined. The orchestra expanded to 65 members with diverse backgrounds. A retired New York Philharmonic cellist. A Juilliard-trained violinist working as a physician. A high school math teacher who studied at Eastman. University students eager for professional mentoring. Thomas Wilson continued his legal investigation, documenting each development at the Hartford Symphony. Walter's latest move, cutting the youth education program to fund multimedia equipment, Thomas reported. 3 board members have quietly resigned in protest. Meanwhile, Walter launched his counteroffensive. Local advertisements promoted the symphony's bold new direction. Anonymous quotes appeared in arts publications criticizing outdated elitist programming models. When a negative article questioning the community orchestra's validity appeared, Marcus recognized Walter's influence. Rather than responding defensively, he invited the journalist to attend a rehearsal. The resulting piece transformed the narrative. What began as a response to institutional politics has evolved into something unexpected, a musical collective blurring lines between professional and community, traditional and innovative. Reynolds conducts with the same precision demanded at major symphonies while fostering an environment of genuine collaboration. By the 6th week, the orchestra tackled more ambitious repertoire. During a sectional rehearsal, 80-year-old violist Ruth Abernathy shared her perspective. I performed professionally for 40 years, she told younger players. This orchestra captures something we often lost in prestigious ensembles, the pure joy of music making without institutional constraints. Walter's attempts to discredit the initiative increasingly failed as community support grew. When he pressured local venues not to host the orchestra, 3 churches offered their spaces free of charge. Marcus remained focused on their upcoming debut, refining interpretation and building cohesion. The orchestra wasn't just playing notes, they were creating a new model for what classical music could be. Walter Prescott implemented a systematic campaign to undermine the Harmony Community Orchestra with increasing intensity. His strategy operated on multiple fronts. Reputation management. Walter hired Vertex PR, a crisis management firm, to develop targeted messaging portraying Marcus as resistant to innovation and modernization, unable to attract younger audiences, responsible for financial shortfalls during his tenure. Media manipulation. Strategic placements appeared in local publications. Opinion pieces questioning community orchestra quality standards. Interviews with Cameron Wright highlighting dynamic new programming. Financial analyses suggesting Marcus's programming choices had endangered the symphony's future. Professional pressure. Musicians still employed at Hartford Symphony received clear warnings. Participation in Harmony Community Orchestra classified as conflicting engagement. Implications of reduced solo opportunities for those maintaining contact with Marcus. Restructured contracts with non-compete clauses presented as standard updates. Marcus documented each incident methodically, adding to Thomas's growing legal portfolio. Walter's overreaching, Thomas observed during their weekly strategy meeting. The non-compete clauses likely violate state labor laws, especially for contracted musicians. Marcus maintained focus on musical development rather than organizational conflict. "The best response is excellence," he told Sarah. "We build something genuine while he constructs an illusion." The counter-strategy developed organically. 1. Transparency. Marcus published complete financial frameworks for the community orchestra. 2. Documentation. All rehearsals recorded with musician permission. 3. Inclusion. Open rehearsals invited community observation. 4. Innovation. Programming balanced tradition with accessibility. The turning point came when Alyssa Chen resigned publicly from the Hartford Symphony Board, releasing a detailed statement. "I cannot in good conscience continue supporting governance practices that prioritize personal connections over artistic integrity. Financial decisions have been made without proper oversight, and dissenting voices systematically silenced." Her resignation triggered 3 additional board departures within 48 hours. Walter responded by accelerating Cameron Wright's first concert, a multimedia spectacular featuring reduced orchestration, amplification, and synchronized lighting. Marketing materials emphasized reinvention and breaking classical music boundaries. The event garnered mixed reviews. While visually impressive, the fundamental musicianship suffered from rushed preparation and conceptual confusion. One wonders if technical spectacle can truly replace musical substance. Hartford Arts Review. Marcus avoided public commentary, focusing instead on the upcoming Harmony Community Orchestra debut. When Richard Hammond requested an interview comparison, Marcus declined tactfully. "Both organizations serve distinct purposes in our musical ecosystem. Our focus remains on building community through collaborative music making." This measured response contrasted sharply with Walter's increasingly defensive interviews. "Change always faces resistance from entrenched traditionalists. Our sold-out performances speak for themselves. Actual attendance, 64% capacity." Walter's most aggressive move targeted the orchestra's funding. He approached the community center's primary donor, suggesting the Harmony Project violated nonprofit regulations by competing with an established cultural institution. Diane Williams called Marcus immediately. "They're threatening to review the center's funding if we continue hosting your orchestra." Marcus conferred with Thomas, who identified clear legal overreach. "This constitutes attempted interference with business relationships," Thomas confirmed. "We now have actionable evidence of targeted harassment." Thomas filed formal complaints with State Attorney General's Office, Arts Council Ethics Committee, Nonprofit Regulatory Board. Meanwhile, local business support for Harmony Orchestra expanded. A retired tech executive offered use of his company's auditorium, with superior acoustics and twice the seating capacity. Walter's miscalculation became apparent when several major Hartford Symphony donors requested meetings to express concerns about leadership direction. 2 longtime patrons publicly redirected their annual contributions to support music education initiatives, including the Harmony Community Orchestra's student mentorship program. Marcus maintained his disciplined approach through escalating tensions. During a particularly focused rehearsal of the Still Symphony movement, 80-year-old Ruth observed, "Walter still doesn't understand. He's fighting over an institution while you're building something that can't be owned, a musical community." As their debut concert approached, ticket requests exceeded venue capacity threefold. Marcus insisted on keeping admission free, with reserved sections for students and seniors. Walter's final attempt at disruption, scheduling a competing free community concert on the same evening, backfired when several Hartford Symphony musicians called in sick, forcing program adjustments. The stage was set for both orchestras to demonstrate their distinct visions for classical music's future in the community. With pressure mounting on multiple fronts, Walter's strategic position weakened as state authorities took notice of the mounting evidence. The formal complaints filed by Thomas Wilson triggered a cascade of official inquiries into the Hartford Symphony's governance and financial practices. The State Attorney General's office assigned investigator Patricia Morales to examine the case. Her initial findings warranted expanding the scope beyond routine review. Investigation PARMETRS, Case Ag 0472. Financial reporting discrepancies, FY 20202023. Board governance procedural violations. Conflict of interest allegations. Contract termination compliance. Procurement irregularities. Patricia contacted Marcus to schedule a formal interview. We're examining significant discrepancies between reported financials and actual transaction records, she explained. Marcus provided organized documentation. 1. Complete financial reports from his tenure. 2. Email communications with board members. 3. Programming statistics with attendance metrics. 4. Contemporaneous notes from key meetings. 5. Witness statements from supportive board members. Thomas accompanied Marcus to the 4-hour interview at the Attorney General's office. Marcus maintained professional objectivity, focusing on factual evidence rather than personal grievances. Our concern is institutional integrity, not individual vindication, Marcus emphasized. The investigation expanded when 3 former administrative employees contacted Patricia with corroborating information about Walter's systematic manipulation of financial reporting. The procurement director revealed. Walter instructed me to route equipment purchases through Apex Services, a company I later discovered was owned by his college roommate. When I questioned the 40% markup, I was removed from the procurement committee. Meanwhile, the Harmony Community Orchestra's debut approached. Despite administrative challenges, Marcus maintained rigorous rehearsal standards. The orchestra achieved remarkable cohesion, transcending the typical limitations of community ensembles. Richard Hammond attended their final rehearsal, requesting an exclusive preview for the Hartford Arts Journal. What I witnessed wasn't merely a reaction to institutional politics, he wrote in his column. Reynolds has created something more significant, a collaborative model that preserves artistic excellence while dismantling accessibility barriers. The article caught the attention of James Winters, director of the prestigious Eastern States Music Festival. He attended a rehearsal unannounced, later approaching Marcus. I'm impressed by what you've built in such challenging circumstances, Winters acknowledged. Our festival is exploring community engagement innovations. Would you consider discussing a potential partnership? This external validation amplified the orchestra's credibility precisely as Walter's position deteriorated under investigation. The Attorney General's office issued preliminary findings. Multiple procurement violations identified. Board meeting procedural irregularities documented. Conflicts of interest confirmed among key decision-makers. Financial misrepresentations substantiated. Walter responded by hiring prominent defense attorney Gregory Simmons, who issued combative statements dismissing the investigation as bureaucratic overreach into artistic decisions. This defensive posture backfired when the state's forensic accountants discovered irregularities in Walter's brother-in-law's marketing firm invoices. Multiple charges for strategic consulting lacked deliverable documentation, while digital analytics reports appeared duplicated across billing cycles. As legal pressure intensified, internal support for Walter collapsed. 3 additional board members resigned, citing inability to fulfill fiduciary responsibilities under current leadership. The Hartford Symphony musicians, sensing the changing tide, organized their own meeting to discuss concerns. Principal cellist David Zhang contacted Marcus afterward. The orchestra voted to request reinstatement of your educational initiatives. Many feel the artistic direction has become unmoored from our core mission. Marcus maintained his focus on the upcoming Harmony concert rather than Hartford politics. The community orchestra's debut sold out within hours of ticket release, with waiting lists exceeding capacity threefold. Local businesses arranged outdoor simulcast viewing with proceeds benefiting music education programs. The day before the performance, the Attorney General's office announced expanded investigations including potential criminal charges related to financial misappropriation. Walter's final defensive move, a hastily called press conference, was overshadowed when major donor Victoria Harrington publicly redirected her $1.5 million annual contribution from Hartford Symphony to a newly established Harmony Community Music Initiative. Classical music belongs to everyone, she stated. Dr. Reynolds demonstrates how artistic excellence and community inclusion can coexist. This represents the future I choose to support. As Marcus reviewed scores in preparation for tomorrow's concert, Thomas called with news. The board has called an emergency meeting. Walter's resignation appears imminent. Marcus set aside the score. Our focus remains on tomorrow's performance. Whatever happens with Hartford Symphony, we've already built something valuable. The morning of the Harmony Community Orchestra's inaugural performance brought unexpected developments. Thomas called Marcus at 7:15 a.m. with breaking news. Walter resigned effective immediately. The Hartford Symphony Board issued a statement acknowledging governance irregularities and announcing a comprehensive review of all financial and artistic decisions made during his tenure. Marcus absorbed this information calmly. What about the Attorney General's investigation? Proceeding independently, they've expanded their focus to the marketing firm and affiliated companies. 3 board members have received subpoenas regarding approval procedures for vendor contracts. After ending the call, Marcus focused on final preparations for the evening's performance. The community center's transformed auditorium, now with professional lighting, acoustical treatments, and expanded seating, buzzed with anticipation as musicians arrived for sound check. Maria Gonzalez, serving as concertmaster, reported unprecedented community engagement. We've received flowers from 12 local businesses. The mayor is attending. 3 music critics from major publications are here. At 4:30 p.m., Marcus led the orchestra through final adjustments. The ensemble demonstrated remarkable cohesion, transcending traditional distinctions between professional and community musicians. The Still Symphony's second movement resonated with particular emotional depth. As musicians dispersed for pre-concert preparations, Jackson approached with his phone. "You should see this email." The message, sent to all Hartford Symphony musicians and copied to several board members, announced an extraordinary board meeting scheduled for Monday to discuss 1. Leadership transition planning. 2. Artistic direction reassessment. 3. Community engagement initiatives. 4. Potential collaboration opportunities. Jackson pointed to the final agenda item. "They're considering partnership with Harmony Orchestra." Marcus handed back the phone. "Our focus remains tonight's performance. Whatever comes after will emerge from the music we create today." By 6:30 p.m., the auditorium reached capacity. The diverse audience included conservatory professors alongside families who had never attended classical concerts. Diane Williams had arranged live streaming to the center's gymnasium to accommodate overflow attendance. At precisely 7 p.m., Marcus entered to thunderous applause. Without pretension, he addressed the audience. "Music connects us across every conceivable boundary. Tonight celebrates not just artistic achievement but community resilience." Each performer on this stage brings unique perspective to our collective voice. The concert surpassed even optimistic expectations. Copland's fanfare projected confidence without bombast. The Still Symphony movement achieved transcendent emotional resonance. Mozart demonstrated precise ensemble coordination. Marquez's danzón unleashed infectious rhythmic energy. During intermission, James Winters from the Eastern States Festival approached Marcus. "We need to talk about expanding this model regionally. You've created something remarkable here." The concert's second half featured the community-submitted folk melodies, arranged professionally but performed with authentic cultural expressions by musicians from respective backgrounds. This innovative approach dissolved boundaries between classical tradition and community musical heritage. Following extended standing ovations, Marcus acknowledged each section, highlighting the unique community-professional hybrid model. As applause finally subsided, he made one announcement. "Music belongs to everyone. Harmony Orchestra exists not as an alternative to traditional institutions, but as a reminder of why such institutions matter. We'll continue building bridges through collaborative creation." The following morning's headlines reflected transformation beyond personal vindication. Harmony Orchestra debut REDFINES classical music engagement. REYNOLDS ESTABLISHES new model for community professional collaboration. Standing room only. New orchestra demonstrates classical music's enduring relevance. Thomas arrived with unexpected visitors, 3 Hartford Symphony board members including recently resigned Alyssa Chen. "We'd like to discuss potential reunification," the interim board chair explained. "Recent events have clarified our institutional mission. We recognize the value of your community-focused approach." Their proposal outlined a restructured organization integrating professional orchestra performances, community participation opportunities, educational outreach programs, collaborative governance model. Marcus listened carefully. "Any potential collaboration must preserve what we've built here, artistic excellence with genuine accessibility." The negotiations extended through April, resulting in unprecedented restructuring. 1. Marcus returned as artistic director, with expanded authority over programming. 2. Harmony Orchestra maintained separate identity while integrating with Hartford Symphony for special performances. 3. Board composition revised to include musician representation and community members. 4. Educational initiatives received guaranteed funding percentage. 5. New transparency protocols established for financial management. By September, the transformed organization launched its season with a groundbreaking concert featuring side-by-side performances, professional musicians alongside community players and advanced students. The sold-out event received national attention for its innovative approach to institutional evolution. 1 year later, Marcus stood backstage before conducting an anniversary concert celebrating the merger. The program combined traditional masterworks with commissioned pieces from diverse composers, reflecting both artistic excellence and community inclusion. Sarah joined him moments before his entrance. "You've created something remarkable." "We created it together," Marcus corrected. This was never about one conductor's vision. As Marcus prepared to take the podium, he noticed 25-year-old Jamal Washington, a promising conductor he had been mentoring, studying his techniques from the wings. "Observe carefully," Marcus told him. "In a few years, this podium will be yours." Marcus stepped onto the stage to enthusiastic applause. The combined orchestra, now a seamless blend of professionals, community musicians, and students, waited attentively. He raised his baton, prepared to conduct not just an orchestra but a vision of what classical music could become. The future had arrived, and it sounded magnificent.